This is not the time to load up the Winnebago and travel around British Columbia.
With daily COVID-19 case numbers remaining high, BC's so-called circuit breaker restrictions are here to stay for at least another 5 weeks. And BC will soon be restricting travel within the province. Just ahead, why health officials say now is not the time to ease up.
I can guarantee you this square will be packed.
I was here a couple of days ago on the weekend and there's quite a good turnout out here just for a regular weekend. So yeah, definitely there's going to be people out here.
I don't know. I kind of hope not.
Will they or won't they? This is now the second year that 420 Vancouver is officially canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, last year was fairly tame, but this is also a new year with new challenges.
I make this promise to Canadians today, speaking as your finance minister and as a working mother. We will get it done.
Canada's finance minister making a big promise. Childcare for around $10 a day. But some analysts say the finance minister's spending plans will need more cash.
There are buried in here tax increases.
We want to have a safe and fun summer, but we will not do that if we lose sight of the objectives ahead of us.
BC's so-called circuit breaker restrictions were supposed to end today, but with daily COVID-19 cases remaining high, they're here to stay. Bans on indoor restaurant dining and indoor group fitness activities will remain in place until at least the end of the May-long weekend.
The circuit breaker programs that were put in place by government to help those businesses through will be extended as well.
And to further curb transmissions, BC is also ramping up travel restrictions within the province.
This is not the time to load up the Winnebago and travel around British Columbia.
Starting Friday, there will be random road checks, and BC Ferries will no longer accept bookings for recreational vehicles like campers and trailers. There will also be signs at the Alberta border to discourage non-essential travel into BC.
There will, in fact, be orders in place. So on Friday, Minister Mike Farnworth will issue orders under the Emergency Program Act to restrict people's ability to leave their health authority. This will be conducted through random audits, not unlike roadside stops for counterattack during the Christmas season. They will be susceptible to all travelers, not just a few travelers. And again, they will be random, and there will be a fine if you are traveling outside of your area without a legitimate reason.
Premier John Horgan added the tourism industry has been working with the province to reject bookings from people traveling outside their local areas.
If you live in the Fraser Health area, by all means, take a few days, get outside, perhaps go to a campground in your local area, but do not try and book somewhere outside of your area because the tourism operator in that community will not book you passage.
It's something the Tourism Industry Association of BC is in favor of.
We're really hoping to save our summer. So by implementing something now over the course of the next 5 weeks, as long as we have assurances that we can see regional travel resume after the May long weekend, we are supportive.
BC will bring in the travel order on Friday and provide more details like what qualifies as essential travel.
In terms of the law enforcement components, Minister Farnworth will have more to say about that on Friday.
In Burnaby, Miranda Fatour, City News.
The increase in restrictions announced by the province today triggered by the case numbers. There were 2,960 new cases over the weekend. There were 8 deaths reported, including a child under the age of 2 who died from complications of COVID-19, the youngest person to succumb to the virus in the province so far. There are currently 9,353 active cases across the province. 441 patients are in hospital, with 138 in the ICU. So far, more than 1.3 million vaccines have been distributed in the province, and Dr. Henry announcing today the AstraZeneca vaccine will now be offered to people over the age of 40 in an attempt to reduce cases of severe illness.
So for us in British Columbia, recognizing, as I presented last week, the increase that we're seeing in hospitalization is people from 40 to 59 and 69. So we want to be able to target specifically the AstraZeneca that we have on people 40 and above right now to try and address that hospitalization risk.
And starting this week, all adults aged 18 and over will be eligible to register for a COVID-19 vaccine. The Ministry of Health's new registration schedule for its age-based immunization program calls for people aged 40 and up to register today, 35 and up on Tuesday, 30 and up on Wednesday, 25 and up on Thursday, and 18 and up on Friday. The province predicts 60% of British Columbians will have their first shot by the end of May.
She hadn't had her period for 2 years, about 2 years after her last period, and she was 53.
Some women have been reporting changes to their menstrual cycles after getting a COVID-19 vaccine. But is the vaccine to blame for these changes?
The victim has now been identified in a shooting that took place in Cole Harbour Saturday night. 31-year-old Harpreet Singh Dhaliwal was shot and killed shortly after 8:30 p.m. near Cardero's restaurant on a busy section of the waterfront in the downtown neighborhood. Police say the shooting appears to be targeted.
It's shocking to the community, and it does affect a lot of people. It makes a lot of people concerned, and we will do whatever we can to investigate this, to hold the people accountable who did this. We do think that it was a targeted killing. It has all the hallmarks of an intentional killing, and we don't believe that there is imminent risk to the public.
No arrests have been made, and the investigation is ongoing. This is Vancouver's 5th homicide of the year. Lawyers for Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou asked a BC Supreme Court judge today to delay the final leg of hearings in her extradition case. Meng's legal team says they need time to review new evidence obtained through a court order in Hong Kong. The evidence may support their argument that the U.S. misled Canadian officials in describing the allegations against Meng. Her lawyers also want Canada's Attorney General to launch an investigation into whether Meng was arrested based on inaccurate information. Meng was arrested at Vancouver's airport in 2018 for charges related to America's sanctions against Iran, which both she and Huawei deny. The Crown wants to see Meng's request denied and for the proceedings to move forward.
Some women are reporting that their periods are being affected by COVID-19 vaccines, but one expert says it's too soon to say if the shot is affecting menstrual patterns.
Whenever two things happen together, we tend to think they're related somehow.
Dr. Geraldine Pryor at the Center for Menstrual Cycle and Ovulation Research received a letter from one menopausal woman.
She hadn't had her period for 2 years, about 2 years after her last period, and she was 53.
This woman got her shot on April 12th, and then on April 18th, she says she started spotting, and she was convinced this was caused by the vaccine.
And I told her that it could be quite normal if she noticed a few things before the flow started, because about 10% of women have another period after a year following their last flow. So if she noticed sore breasts or bloating, fluid retention, increased cervical mucus or PMS-type mood things, then it's very likely that that's a normal period.
Other irregular periods Dr. Pryor has heard about primarily involve near-menopausal women or teenaged girls. She says it's too early to make a connection between their periods and COVID vaccines because of a lack of scientific data, but she says the reports are increasing.
So I think cycles are being disturbed because of all the changes that are coming, because in general we're isolated, our pattern of work, our pattern of play, our pattern of visitation with family and friends is disrupted.
Just the stress of these situations can interfere with our ovarian cycles.
UBC psychology professor Lisa Galea surveyed women and postmenopausal women about disruptions to their periods or postmenopausal status during the pandemic.
And I'll say that about 30% of people indicated they had disruptions to their menstrual cycle. This is not because of the vaccine, because the vaccines hadn't been introduced yet. And 7% of postmenopausal women said they had increased bleeding and spotting of that, things of that nature.
Dr. Pryor says the changes that women observe are real and wants them to feel assured about getting vaccinated.
Even though I intend to be reassuring about vaccines and menstrual cycles, that doesn't mean I'm discarding this data. it means we don't have adequate data yet to know what's going on.
In Vancouver, Keir Drunos, City News.
I make this promise to Canadians today, speaking as your finance minister and as a working mother. We will get it done.
The federal finance minister making a big promise to Canadian parents in the 2021 federal budget. Chrystia Freeland says by 2026, a day of childcare will cost an average of just $10. The federal government saying it now knows what working parents have always known. The economy is at its best with childcare.
This budget commits up to $30 billion over 5 years, reaching $9.2 billion every year permanently to build a high-quality, affordable, and accessible early learning and childcare system across Canada.
The plan is to build something like Quebec's childcare system, with the federal government providing $27.2 billion over 5 years, aiming to reach a 50-50 spending split with the provinces. However, the finish line is far off. This current minority government will be gone by 2026, raising concerns that the Liberals and their plans may be gone by that 5-year mark.
The only criticism I would make of it is that they made it universal, so it benefits all parents. Everyone says, what's wrong with that? Well, universal means literally everybody. That means medical doctors making $500,000 or $1 million will get it. That means a partner in a law firm making $500,000 in downtown Toronto will get it.
Ian Lee says the budget is the largest he's ever seen in over 10 years, but not as broad as he first thought. Canada's COVID relief programs like the recovery benefit and rent and wage subsidies are extended till September 21st. And there's $100 billion in stimulus spending to kickstart the economy. Small and medium businesses will get help shifting sales to digital, while there's also a new Canada Recovery hiring program for businesses that hire back workers from June to November of this year. But all this will need money. The budget projects tax revenue will increase 28% over 5 years, but Lee says there's no way this kind of money can come solely from personal income taxes.
There are buried in here tax increases. Some of them were visible, like the digital tax on middle-class people like me that subscribe to Netflix and to PBS Passport and to Amazon Prime Video. And I'm sure there's millions and millions of Canadians who do. So there's tax increases such as that. I'm not even referring to the luxury taxes. So there's taxes embedded in there that are going to take a bite out of our pocketbook.
Now, the 2021 federal budget is huge. Check out how it compares to the 2019 federal budget, and there's a lot in here. There's money for the RCMP to tackle systemic racism, cash for the military to address gender-based violence, as well as support for the tourism and hospitality sectors, as well as a tax on foreign-owned homes that aren't occupied. But the opposition is upset that there's at least one item not in the budget, a paid sick leave program. In Ottawa, Xiaoli Lee, City News.
If you were having trouble making phone calls or sending texts today, you weren't alone. There were significant service outages on the Rogers and Fido wireless networks today. The problems began early this morning and affected customers in many parts of the country. There's still no word yet on what caused the interruptions, and although some people are seeing service now, there's no word on when it will be fully restored. Residential and business cable and wired internet services have not been impacted. Rogers is the parent company of City News.
This place is going to be packed.
I think there's going to be maybe a 40% turnout.
I don't know. I kind of hope not.
Due to ongoing health restrictions, 420 Vancouver organizers say for the second year in a row, there will be no official gathering at Sunset Beach. But will people decide to show up anyway? Before COVID-19, we saw crowds peaking somewhere between 50 and 60,000 people. Now, last year was fairly tame. However, this is a different year, and we're seeing more and more fatigue over COVID-19 related restrictions. On the weekend, Mayor Kennedy Stewart reacting to reports of large beach gatherings in the city, saying on Twitter, "Now is not the time to be gathering in large groups. I've been in contact with Chief Palmer, and after a busy weekend, the VPD will be reassessing their approach to outdoor parties." Hamish Telford, an associate professor of political science with the University of the Fraser Valley, says while last year we saw very little activity for 420, this year people are feeling worn out.
People are tired and frustrated. We've got glorious weather, the first good weather of this year.
People at Sunset Beach on Monday afternoon also having some uncertainty about what's in store.
Terrible idea, but then also people are tired of all the rules and the restrictions that have been in place for more than a year now, so.
I hope not, but I think some people will definitely come out if it's a nice day.
I think there'll be small gatherings, maybe.
Telford also says governments and police are likely between a rock and a hard place when it comes to public demonstrations.
People have been out protesting, which is a constitutional right in Canada, and our governments and health authorities, while they've imposed restrictions, are reluctant to clamp down on what are guaranteed constitutional rights.
I think they should definitely have the right to protest.
And I've always agreed with what they're protesting. I think if they do it, they should gather kind of, again, with the way it is out here now, or in separate pods.
Even I'm not a fan of marijuana, I think everybody has a right to protest.
Yes, they should, but given the times that we're in, is it necessary to have it right now? I don't really know.
The City of Vancouver, in a written statement, tells us enforcing physical distancing in public with penalties is the jurisdiction of the province, and that city enforcement staff involve the VPD when dealing with people or businesses who are persistent offenders. The VPD say they're on the ready.
I'm not aware of any major events that are planned for 420 tomorrow. We'll have officers available and deployed throughout the city, as we always do, and these officers will be able to respond to anything that pops up.
Any chance that you're gonna make your way on down here tomorrow to see if something's happening?
Highly unlikely. I might pass by on my bike, but definitely not stop around.
Probably not, but I'll partake in my own way.
Next year we can properly celebrate.
420 Vancouver did not respond to our request for an interview. In Vancouver, David Zura, City News.
Vancouver's news is always available on the radio with News 1130 or online anytime at citynews1130.com. Your next edition of City News is tonight at 11. Thank you for watching and have a great night.